Welcome to Hot Literati. Hot Literati is a collective of hot, cool, well-read people. I am Halo, and I'm really happy that you're here. Okay, do you mind just introducing yourself, how we know each other, what you do, all that good stuff?
Oh, love it. My name is Lily Kincaid. I'm a musician, artist, storyteller. I do it all. And Haley and I met. When did we meet? I feel like 2011, 2010.
Like 2009.
2009. Oh my gosh. That is just crazy. We met in our home state of Kansas doing pageants as wee little babies. And it's just so crazy. And we found our way back to each other. Perfect timing.
Amazing. Can you tell me about, so this is like my perspective of National American Miss 2009. I was like scared little baby pageant girl, and I did talent, but I did kind of a contemporary ballet piece, and I saw you did like vocal and dance, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's so cool. Because I've always wanted to do like more embodied performance my whole life, but I've been like really shy. I think just doing a lot of personal reflection. I think it's because I literally had the voice of a mouse as a child, and like boys in kindergarten would be like, "My name's Haley," so I just like stopped talking and was just like afraid of being audibly perceived for like the first half of my life. So I thought you were like the coolest girl ever. I was like, oh my gosh, she's doing the thing. Like
I did not think I was that cool. I literally started because I don't even know how I literally started doing that pageant just because I wanted to perform, because I wanted to be able to like sing and dance. And it's like you do everything in your hometown that you can, and at a certain point you're like, I need to do something else. I have to like do something else. But that's honestly why I started doing it. But it wasn't like, for me, it's interesting to see, because some people, it's like, I've noticed that some people, they feel themselves when they're able to like become somebody else, like when they're acting and they're able to like express different things that aren't them, that's when they feel like they're using their gifts. Versus mine is the opposite. It's like, okay, I spent my whole life, I could like be whoever people wanted me to be, but that wasn't me. So like by the time I got to be like more aware of myself, like 16, 17, I was like, I don't even know who I am. Like I didn't know how to express my emotions, because I was so used to doing like, oh, I gotta do this or sing this or like be this, that it's interesting to see how like, it's like you always want what you can't have. So many people are like, oh, I'd love to do that. I'd love to be able to perform and do that. But I'm like, but it was so hard for me to like not do that. And like, still, yes, I sing and stuff, but it was so hard for me not to perform, because I'm so acutely like aware of like, oh, this, if I act this way, this person will like me like this, or like,
when did you, I guess actually, how do you define performance? Because I have this one book that's really interesting to me. It's about theater, I think, but it's like In Search of Performance, I think is what it's called. And then for my book club, when we read this one book, Paul Takes the Form of a Mortal Girl, which is about this one like queer character that kind of like can literally like, it's a little surreal, and they can like literally conform to like these different personas, these different like physical appearances based on perception. So and I mean, I was just talking about this to my phone this morning. Like, I studied gender studies in college and African American studies, which you talk a lot about, like gender and race as like performance, or just like identity as performance. So I'm always curious, like, how do you define performance for yourself?
performance. Well, I think it's very interesting to see, because it's like you start having these conversations, then at a certain point it's like, I don't know how people have these conversations and it doesn't lead back to God. Because at a certain point it's like, what is the one thing we all have? The Bible doesn't mention race like at all. It's like we're all children of God. And anytime you put your identity in anything else, yeah, there's things to acknowledge, but anytime you ultimately, like, everything else should be below that. If you put your identity in anything else, whether it be like your job, or for a minute, I was like, I'm putting my identity in being like, I'm nervous, I'm anxious, my identity is like worried what other people think of me over what God called me to do for a while. And I had to like realize that, like, it's interesting, because it's almost like performances, and it's like, it's so interesting, because obviously it's like, yes, you want to do things with excellence, and I feel like we assume that performance means putting on an act that's not real. I feel like that's probably not even the definition of the word performance, But I feel like everybody just has culturally accepted that performance is like putting on a show. Like it's not you. But I'm like, no, you can be yourself and like exaggerate it to maybe to get more people to see it, or, you know, but it can still be you. You can perform and be authentically yourself. But I think it's like a matter of so many people don't even know who they are, which is the problem. Like they don't know who they are.
Wait, I love that. Yeah, because I think like for myself, what you said kind of just shifted something in my brain a little bit, because I'm curious what you think. And for this other project I'm working on, I had a conversation with another like pageant girl about what it is in pageantry to like perform the act of yourself and get feedback. Yeah, I think like who you are to yourself is so interesting. And I'm also really happy you brought in like religion, because I know we're both like really spiritual, and studying like early texts around like religion in America, I think for me at least as like a woman of color sometimes can be a little bit like scary when you look at like the history, but it's like I don't know, it's like you know what God is telling you to do, and a lot of the time it's like never something that's going to harm someone else. So it's
Yeah.
like I'm curious how you navigate that like line for yourself in today's world, where I think religion is something at this point that's also like become so far removed from like what you feel in your heart and what you're like listening to.
Because people don't realize that it's like religion has become a performance. It's become an act. There's people that are like, oh, I'm religious. Christian is never used in the Bible. You know, Christian's like a derogatory term, people that follow Christ. There's no like Christian in the Bible. So anybody can say they're a Christian. That doesn't mean that they actually are a follower of like Jesus. That doesn't mean they actually like, you know, love yourself and love your neighbor. Love God, love yourself, and love your neighbor as yourself. And that's been like interesting to see, because, you know, it's like, oh, I would say like, oh yeah, I know God, but like I didn't start reading the Bible or like even understanding what it was until like I was like 16, 17, like on my own. And still, it's like every time I read it, I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. Like everything you think, like once you start to see, like once you start to blend even to like science with that, like, you know, energy cannot be created or destroyed. You look at that and then you go into, it's like, okay, God created everything in it. He created everything. He created absolutely everything. So nothing is original. Nothing is original. And you can go through the Bible, any problem you have, and it's like, okay, what did this person do in that problem? And so it's interesting to see, like, I don't know, it's very interesting to see, because I do think the number one problem is like people are, it's interesting because it's like religion separates people from relationship with God, when, because they just don't know. They just don't know like how to form that. Like I feel lucky because I didn't grow up like my parents were Catholic. Like we would just go to church on, you know, like holidays, like Christmas, Easter, but I like never, we would go to like a Christian church, but I never had my own understanding of like who God was for a long time. I didn't know I could just like talk to him like a friend, or I could like, it's super crazy to think about, but I didn't have that. And so it's like, I can't even imagine people who never even have the opportunity to go to a church, to go to that. And so that's why it's important too, to like, you live by example. You can say all you want, but if your words are not aligning with your actions, it doesn't matter. Even in the Bible, it says faith without works is dead. You can believe, oh, this is awesome, God said I'm going to do this, but if you're not making the actions as if he's going to give you that promise, it's not going to happen.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah, like, because I'm curious what your art practice is, because for me, I think the past couple years, someone said something to me a few years ago that was like, they thought that art was like God speaking through people, which that really stuck with me. And I started feeling this like real ethical responsibility about the art that I was creating and the media that I was putting into the world. And I think you also brought up something I think about a lot, which is like listening and then like taking action when you know you're supposed to. Because sometimes it can be scary. Like for me, I think it was like resigning from my day job, or like sometimes booking a trip where I'm like, I know I'm supposed to be here and I don't really know why yet, but I know that like I'll figure it out when I get there. And these ways of like the works, I guess, like having the faith, but then like doing the thing when you're called to. And I think it will always, if it's like real, be for the betterment of like yourself and everyone around you. But for me, I feel like in order to have that like connection from my work, my art, my like life, I have to have like stillness and silence in a way that's so hard in today's world. So do you have any like art practices, like rituals, things that you do to make sure that you're like remaining connected and centered and creating what you know you're supposed to be?
Definitely journaling. I'm a big journaler. I love journaling, and I've always wanted to be a journaler, right? Like since I was little, I was like, I want to be a journaler, and I would like start a journal, then I would write for like 2 days, but I started like making my journals more of like I'll put pictures in there, I'll put like concert tickets as I'm writing, so it becomes kind of more of like collage, but also like a lot of writing. But it's very when you at first it's weird because we're so used to self-editing ourselves, which is like a normal characteristic. Obviously, you should not say everything that you think in your head. It's unnecessary and probably not socially acceptable and shouldn't be acceptable. Like some thoughts need to stay inside. I think as a society we've gone too far. Like you guys, you need to have some sense of like people are gonna your words are forever on the internet. Like let's keep you may have let's grow and keep, a professional space. But I think that like journaling helps you unself edit so that way when you are sitting down to write or you're sitting down to create, your brain has an easier time of like authentically creating because you're used to like just writing it down. Like I always say, start with 5 minutes, set a timer on your phone and like journal out for 5 minutes. Don't stop. And people are like, well, I don't know what to say. Then literally write that down. I don't know what to say. This girl Lily told me to journal for 5 minutes. This is kind of weird. I have to go to the grocery store today. Like literally write that out, but don't stop for 5 minutes and get used to like getting into that flow state where you're not like thinking like, ooh, what's a cool thing I should write before you write it.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, journaling. I feel like when I'm my best, I'm like journaling consistently. And I've been thinking about this one, like Joan Didion quote. She talks about how she like writes to understand what she's thinking, which I think I used to feel like that. Like, I think it's really natural to be able to get the thoughts out. But I find myself like journaling. I like prayer journal a lot because I think sometimes I'm like, I have no idea what to do with all of these like situations or like thought loops or whatever, and just putting them down.
Yeah.
I always end up at like a better place with like a clearer answer. So I love that. Okay, can you walk me back to like the beginning of your artistic career? Like what are some of the first things you made? What was the story, the inspiration, the moment?
Oh my gosh. Well, the first song I ever wrote was about my dog Molly. I started playing piano when I was in kindergarten. And what's crazy? It's like our parents are always right because I used to hate it. I used to hate like all my friends would hang out after school and I'd be like, I have to go home and practice piano. But now I'm grateful. But the first song I ever wrote was about my dog Molly. And it's interesting to see because I think I was always like, as I was growing up, in middle school, I was always writing, but obviously you're busy with school, you're busy with sports, dance, other things. And I think I was always just trying to like make myself heard, like my authentic self heard. And, people do that in many different forms. And mine was just in songs. Like, it's almost like the safety blanket of like a song gave me the ability to express how I really felt without being like, oh, I'm going to be judged for it, or it's going to be shamed, or this is like, I shouldn't feel this way. And so as I continue to do that, I think it's like when you practice something, you get better at it. You can't expect like the first thing you ever write to be amazing. I always say like I wrote 1,000 bad songs like before I ever started liking what I was writing. Even you have to get through that. You have to learn all the skills so then you can create freely. Like you need boundaries and you need like structure. So then you're able to create freely and already have the understanding. So like I've been writing since I was little, moved to California when I was 14 and was doing like online school. So I was like consistently writing, and it wasn't until I was like 18 years old that literally like I was like, okay, finally, like the writing, I get it. I found my voice in songwriting and just communicating in general. But that's so long. That took so long. And it's like I'm 24 now, and it's like just everything now is clicking. It's like I put out EPs. I'm releasing my debut album this fall, but still, it's like you never will feel ready. You just have to put in the hours and then like give yourself a deadline. I always say, if you're like trying to create a project, you want to write this, you want to do whatever it is, you give yourself a deadline and do it. You're going to make something better. You're going to write a better story. You're going to write a better song. So like, you just got to put it out, give yourself a deadline and make it the best you can within that time frame and move on.
Yeah, I love that. Like setting a deadline in order to make sure that you actually have like a clear goal to work toward, I think is such a powerful thing, and like writing down those goals too. Speaking of deadlines and productivity, I do want to mention the sponsor that we were just gabbing about before we started recording, because you tried it as well. This little green supplement called Magic Mind. I used to be a grind set girl when I was sitting at my 9 to 5, like typing away, doing email, and I would just like chug coffee throughout the day until I felt absolutely loopy and needed to go on like a long walk, and like very anxious, which is why I'm really excited to have Magic Mind, this like little green drink, a mental performance shot, as a sponsor for today's episode. I like the taste. I like that it has nootropics. I like that it's accessible. It's like a really accessible price point as well. And they're helping you out further because if you use Hot Literati 50 at checkout, you can get up to 50% off your first subscription or 20% off a one-time purchase. Again, Hot Literati 50 at checkout for Magic Mind, the little green supplement that will help you be productive without being extremely, extremely anxious. Okay, yeah. So I'm like, gosh, I'm thinking about so much that you've said because I really agree. Like writing and like art as this way of like communicating what you want to say, but like don't really know how. Because I think for me, that's what art was like really young too. Is like communicating to like myself, my parents, like this is what I'm thinking. I don't really know how to put it in a way that makes
Yeah.
sense if I just like say it out loud.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and to what we were saying earlier too about like being like spiritually connected and kind of like divinely led, I also think about that with God a lot, you know, like I mean, God isn't like speaking to you in the English language all the time. You know, you just like feel something or you have like intuition.
Yeah.
And I guess what I'm trying to say, and I'm obsessed with this one philosopher who talks about this, which is why I keep coming back to this, is like language is really limiting sometimes, right? Like, and I think music has this ability to just like transcend it, right? Like,
Yeah. It's universal, and it's like I don't have this gift. I have other gifts. Like if you have the Holy Spirit in you. So if you've like accepted Jesus Christ, you have the Holy Spirit, and there's gifts, and people don't realize this. In the Bible, like again and again, you can ask for gifts. There's certain spiritual gifts, and you have the ability to ask for them. Like I know people who have like they never got it before, but then they started praying like I want the gift of prophecy. I want to see visions for like not only myself but like over my family or these people. And they started having visions, and they would write them down, tell people, and then they would actually like to be prepared for things. Like you can pray for that. One of those is like speaking in tongues. I don't have that ability, but some people have that ability, and like then there's other people that can interpret it where it transcends our human language. It transcends every certain, you know, every different language, and it's like a holy language similar to like hymns and worship, I think, because there's something where it's even in like the frequencies of music. There's certain frequencies that are like very peaceful, like there's no anxiety levels, and then there's other frequencies of music that people are now starting to see that intentionally you can like make a beat this tempo with this certain frequency, and it will cause like a heart rate spike. It will cause anxiety. There's music that can cause depression, and so people are realizing that like music isn't just music. Words aren't just words, you know, like it's so much deeper than you think it is. And it's like, because it's like, everything is energy. And I think like, even for me, like my art everything comes from God for me. Cause I'm like, yeah, I'm writing about these feelings, but like I wouldn't have these feelings if God didn't put me here. Like everything comes from God for me. And like, I realized this too. I was like, you know what? Life isn't fair, and our gifts may not be what we want to do. I always like say like, I never chose to do what I'm doing. I just chose to like pursue it. I'm like, God, if you want me to do this, I'll pursue it. It's not like I was like, oh, this is great. I always say if I wanted attention, if I wanted money, why would I ever do this job? There's so much easier ways I could probably do that than trying to be like a full-time artist performer. Like people forget about that. They think people are just chasing fame. I'm like, there's a lot easier ways if you were just chasing fame that you could easily achieve that. This is not that. But it's like everything comes from God, and my duty is just to use it. And then he gets the glory. For the longest time, people are like, well, why don't you write Christian music? And it's like, why don't you do this type of music? And it's like, this is just what God called me to do. The thing is, it's like God wants kings in the marketplaces. He doesn't just want people that know him around other people that know him. Like, that's great, but you need to go out there and like spread the word to people and to give God the glory. When people are like, how are you doing this? Like, how do you remain so positive? I'm like, truthfully, like it's God, because I know God, because I know that he's working all things together for the good of people who love him, and that he's always protecting me, and he says he's never going to leave me.
That's really gorgeous. Yeah, I think that's something I remind myself a lot too, is like you can be a testimony to people just by like being in their life and being like positive. And because I think right now there's obviously with just like so much divisiveness, there's associations with like religion and religion and like bigotry, or religion and like hypocrisy, or like even the history of religion like colonization, or
Yeah.
like forcing your beliefs on anyone. I think people feel that politically, like with religion, like forcing your beliefs on
Yeah.
anyone. And that's why I just love art and I love artists, is because I think there's this like willingness to see the beauty in like each and every single person, no matter like what the background is. Because I think, I mean, I'm definitely speaking for myself here, but like I feel like most artists understand like I am everyone. Like I could be anyone if I was like
Yeah.
born into their shoes and had the experiences that they had growing up. So I think art is this like beautiful divot to help people like realize that and be like empathetic and kind with one another. And I love what you said about fame too. Like I think fame is really fascinating. One of my earliest classes in college was on the philosophy of celebrity, and I think like artists are in this like weird catch 22. Like I was listening to this one Lady Gaga interview where she was talking about how much she missed just like being around people without it being a spectacle. Or I was listening to this like Janis Joplin interview where she was talking about how absurd it was to have like magazines making money off of her. Or even like Nina Simone has this beautiful song called Stars that talks about how lonely it is. Like I truly think like real, quote unquote, real artists don't necessarily want to be famous. They just want to like do their craft. But we live in this society where it's like the only way for an artist to sustainably practice art full time is like fame. But then social media has made this like weird thing too, where it creates the fallacy that fame is like accessible to anyone if you just like hack the algorithm or like work hard enough. So I guess the question I have is like, how do you manage this as an artist? Because I know you're independent, which I'd love to hear like why. And then you also do like the social media content creation, like all that stuff on your own. Like how do you do it all?
It's very interesting. And it is something where I'm always like, I don't even know how I do it all. Something I've realized is that nobody actually wants fame. Everybody, I'm pretty sure, wants to be fully known and fully loved for who they are. And so people have this like, oh my gosh, whether it be like, oh, my parents didn't like the skill that I had, so now I have to like try to prove that by getting as many people to like whatever it is I'm doing, but it will never fulfill that. They just want somebody to love them who knows everything about them and still love them. And like truthfully, like nothing's going to do that except for God, which is like it's the catch 22, because if people are like, oh well, like religion, I'm like, but you have to get out of that. And I get it, it's hard. Like some people who grow up going to church, then they have a harder time because they have to leave and then come back on their own. But it is interesting to see, because it's like I've realized that, like, and you can get caught up in it. You see people who like totally change their personality. They totally get in that. It's an addiction. They've done studies like the dopamine hits from that. It's like an addiction. That's what we're seeing all these like things now. We're seeing after, the pandemic and then not having everyone being on their phones just now. I feel like we're seeing like the effects of it, like how people's attention spans are low, or they can't like communicate, or people are like super lonely now. Even though you think that, oh, we're all connected, we should be like have so many friends, we should feel so good because we have all these friends online, we're always seeing our friends online. But people are like, it's different types of connection when it's not in person. You're not talking to real people about real things. You're editing yourself, or you're presenting a version of yourself that maybe isn't who you really are. So then you feel this imposter syndrome. Like, no wonder why there's no chance to even not have it. You're presenting this perfect version of yourself from the get-go. From day one, you constantly feel like you're not good enough, and you feel like then you go out in public, oh, if someone recognizes me, I have to hide because I don't look like I do online, or like I don't act the same, like people are going to say I'm fake. And it's like you set that up for yourself by not being yourself from day one. But then we reward like when you're not being yourself, for the algorithms or whatever it may be. So it's like there's no way to win it, but you have to realize if you are not paying for it, you are the product. So I'm like, you got to be cautious with what it is you choose to share. And like I would say, like, let's know what you choose to share. I mean, share whatever it is that you want, but also say like be careful of what you're consuming, because whatever we input is like what we output. Like if you are constantly inputting negative people, you're going to be negative yourself. It's like I used to kind of just consume everything, but I've started being like very more particular, more like with intention, you know.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, that's why like as someone with a platform, I do feel this like ethical responsibility to try to like put good media out there. Um like good in the sense it leaves people feeling better than it did when they arrived to it, and more like peaceful. Because there were times when I was like reading like the bell jar for book club or consuming too much quote unquote like sad girl music where I was like, oh, this is like affecting people. And I also think like that's why I'm really passionate about having like a blog, because it's a space where like I can kind of just put like a thought out that I'm curious about, because I love the internet as a means to get like other people's opinions, like resources to
Yeah.
like collectively like ideate together. But I agree, like social media, I think in like shapes a lot of the time. I think it's because of like dance, maybe, I don't know. But like
Yeah, I love that.
you like open an app to do one thing and then your mind is just taken down like 15 different roads and you're like, wait, no, like why did I open this thing? And it's a really absurd experience if you can like step back and realize it's
And see
happening.
it. Because it's confusion. Confusion is the number one way to distract you from your purpose and what you're supposed to be doing. If you have too many options, you pick nothing. It creates paralysis. That's why people like Trader Joe's, because there's a study done in like, I believe it was the 60s where they had jam. They had like a person with samples, and they had one with like 9 samples of jam. And then there was one with like 26 or something. And they were testing to find what the exact number was where people choose nothing. 9 or under is like the maximum amount of choices. So if you have like 9 guys that you're dating, like if you have any more than that, you'll pick nobody. 9 is the maximum. So when we have all these options, it's why like Trader Joe's does so well, because they have one of this. They have one organic spaghetti sauce, one non-organic spaghetti sauce. Like it's simple. So you just go and buy it without being like, choice paralysis is what is killing us. That's why we have all these apps. People don't know. Oh my God, I could be anything. I don't know. Back in the day, it used to be like, okay, well, what did my parents do? Like what jobs are in my hometown? You're very limited, but it was more fulfilling because we're not meant to have this many choices. We're not. We're not meant to think that we can play God and create exactly like, yes, you can use your skills, but like it's become like too much. It's become like you're not meant to be like seeing people, dating apps, like constantly seeing people all the time, thinking you have all these options out there. That's not healthy for your brain.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. 9 or less. Whoa. Yeah, because when I get like a giant menu, like whenever I'm at a diner,
Whoa.
it's a diner, but I'm like,
Like, I don't know what to get. And it's like kind of weird to think about that, but it's like, even if you're like, you end up getting something, right? But subconsciously, you might not realize this, but like you have certain stress triggers. So then if you ever like are like, oh, should we go to that restaurant again? Your body might be like, no, like because it remembers those stress triggers of trying to be like, I don't know what to pick because there's too many things.
That's really interesting. I want to ask this because I like basically Lily was in New York and I was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna hang out. And it was when I was still working a 9 to 5. So I had like a quick time for lunch and we had like this hilarious like 15-minute conversation that was like, oh, like God is leading me in my life. Oh, God is leading me in my life. Oh, like I'm done dating. I've dated enough. Oh, me too. And yeah, I think about the old world model of things a lot of the time, like you would see like a few paths for yourself or maybe like the path to go into the unknown and like pursue something else, but you wouldn't have all these options. And I guess what I'm trying to ask is like, as someone who moved far away from home to pursue what I wanted, like sometimes I'm like, oh no, would it have been simpler if I had like stayed in Kansas? Like, would I be married like my friends? Would I have a family? Would I like be more at peace because I didn't have all these like options or like net new experiences? And I think maybe it's like a question I've asked myself just because I'm getting older and like nostalgic. But I'm wondering if you ever think like that. And yeah.
Sometimes, but if you've had the desire, you'll experience regret. Like everything's like twofold. Like you're gonna have sacrifices for following your dream. Just like there will be sacrifices and there will be problems because you choose to follow God. The same thing whenever you follow your dream or do something outside of like the standard, you're gonna feel those feelings and like you may get pushback. But I always think about it, you can always go back home. And I realized this because I thought everybody felt like us. For the longest time, I was like, yeah, doesn't everybody want to like chase after something or like do something different? No, that gives them anxiety. A lot of people actually find peace in routine. They find peace in stability versus me. I'm like, that makes me feel so depressed. I'd probably get like just anxious. I'd probably not be myself. Like I like going to new places. And I realized like that's, for a reason, like I'm able to yes, it's safe, and I like the comfort of being like, okay, I'm here, I have my morning routine, I know exactly for the next 3 months what my schedule is. I don't know what my schedule is now, and that's, I now see it. I'm like, okay, God's using that because I can control what I sing, I can control my voice, but God's like, you can't control your schedule, so you're gonna have to rely on me, because it is like, I might book you in a show here and you're gonna have to leave, and you're gonna have to be okay with that, and like, you're gonna have to trust me that I will make sure you have everything that you need. Like, you can't control everything. And so I realized that, it's like God knows our hearts, and there's different things. But for the longest time I felt like that because I didn't realize that, everybody functions differently. So there's some people that like they find, they get all their peace in their routine and their stability, and like having that allows them to like grow deeper, and they get a lot of like, some people are made to be leaders and some people are made to be followers. Ultimately, it's like we're all followers of Jesus. Like at the end, even if people don't see it, it's like you have the option to see it. And it's like when you see that, like, okay, whatever it is that you're doing, it becomes more than like the job, is really like interesting to see. Like it's interesting to see because like in LA, whenever I'm there, like even in like my, my small group there, like my friends there, a lot of people are similar to us where they moved to LA from their hometowns, like they're pursuing a passion. Even if they work a normal corporate job, like it's very much like there's a lot more entrepreneurs there. There's just a lot more people in a smaller area. So you're going to have a higher concentrated rate of like artists or creatives or performers. And then like in Tennessee, it's interesting to see because like my small groups here are like with people that are like electricians and work in advertising, just normal people that do all this stuff. But then it's like you see this common love for God and like following that in like a bigger purpose. So it's interesting to see both sides because at the end of the day, it's like neither one is better than the other. We're all human. We're just using whatever gifts that we have.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's like the hunger for the unknown and the willingness to like jump based on faith. Yeah, I think is like, it took me a long time to understand that not everyone was like that. And my father like was the first, like one of the first people to tell me like, Haley, not everyone wants to like do something new, like net new every day. And I was like, but my like I love my parents. My parents are so smart, and like, yeah, I think that's really poignant to point that out. So I'm curious, like, now that we've talked a little bit about the subliminal power of like media, of music, who is Lily Kincaid listening to on a loop?
Who am I listening to on a loop? It's constantly like Taylor Swift and Lana Del Rey. I'm not gonna lie, I love that. Taylor Swift, Lana Del Rey. I love Banks. Her new album is so good. I've been listening. It's all the people that I've realized that like it was kind of around all the people I listened to in like 2014. I realized definitely that was when I started to find my voice and like leaned into my natural voice that has like influenced me. So it's a lot of like Lana, Taylor. I love Banks. I love like early Halsey stuff. I find myself listening to a lot. I love Ren Weaver. She's not released an album since like 2015, but her 2015 album I listen to all the time. It's so good. I feel like I've been listening to a lot less music than I normally do. I go through phases, I go through phases where I'm like consuming, and then you have times where I feel like you need to like incubate, and then you have times where you create. And it's very interesting because like being an artist and like, writing so much and then having a project, it's interesting now because I always feel very weird when you're at the period right before you're putting out a project because you kind of feel empty. It's like a weird sense of like, not like, I've never had a baby, but it's like, I could see the postpartum, like you have this empty space where you had this thing that you were like spending all this time working on. You were doing all the designs for it. Everything in your life revolved around the creation of that, which is amazing, right? But then it's like, okay, it's going to come out this day. Then it's kind of like, okay, that's great. Like you have the other areas. Yeah, you're going to tour, you're going to play it. Like you're still busy doing that. But in terms of a creation and like activating your writing process or creating, it's weird because you're like, well, I have no idea what direction I'm going to go in next. Like it could be an album about this, it could be this genre, it could be this style. And so it's like a very weird season where I think it's important to like be still and to like, yes, listen to things occasionally, but be more quiet so you can hear your own voice. Then once you kind of know the next direction where you're going, you can listen to your favorite songs, you can listen to music, but like you got to make sure you know where you're going first before you like allow that to influence.
Oh, 100%, 100%. And that reminds me a lot. I went to this screening of this A24 movie, and Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield were in it, and they did like a Q&A after. And they were talking about, one of them said something about how when a project is finished, they got like really sick and really depressed. And when I've finished like projects, Yeah, I think there is this like emptiness and this like really incessant need. Like that was my first time finishing a project that big and I didn't really understand. But now I know like when you finish a project, you need to be like really gentle with yourself and you need to like do things that love and like be around people who love you. Cause yeah, it is like this strange like birthing of something and then you're like looking at it and you're
Like
like,
more, more, more. When are you
oh,
doing your next thing? And I get it because moms are always like, "Oh my gosh!" Once you have one kid, people will ask you, "When are you having the next one?" And you're like, "I just had the one kid," and I'm like, "Okay, I get it." Like I can kind of like, yeah, it's like you just pour all this into it, and people are like, you feel like, "Is this not good enough? Is this not enough for you?" Like,
but then I think with the point where we're at with artistic industries too, um, you have to like have the kid, but then you have to like bring it out into the world, or at least you and I have chosen more like independent paths. So then we have to turn on like business brain too. And I'm curious why you've chosen to be an independent artist in today's landscape.
well, mainly because I want to own my stuff. Because you have to, especially when it is your art and it is when your name is attached to it. It's like really tricky because you can get caught up in contracts, and it's like from a business perspective, it's like labels aren't what they used to be. Like since anyone can upload, we're kind of at the point now where it's shifting to real art in any form. It used to be you only could release a book, you only could release an album, you only could release a TV show if you had this small number of people. You know, you had the major labels, the major networks, major publishers. So you had to have that. Therefore, i.e., anybody who was signed or doing that, they became successful because that's the only way that the media got into the public. And then we've seen over, the course of the past 10 years, especially in like 2021, 2022, like so much music being created. I think there was a study, it's probably way more now, but it was like 46,000 songs a day were uploaded on Spotify. And it's even more now with AI, and people are having a hard time tracking down which songs are made with AI. So it's like this whole thing where basically like, if nobody can create music, and then if everybody can create music and release it, it kind of puts you back to like, nobody can create music. It's a circle. So it's like real art will find its way to the top naturally, because it's like, if it was only selective, it's the same as everybody doing it. Like it neutralizes it out. So it's like real art will find its way because there's so much bad art that like, if something is good, it will just be found. And so it's like, that's kind of in a space where I'm looking at it. Also too, it's like, you want to get to a point where you could do everything by yourself and people are adding to your team. Like even me, it's like, I do a lot of stuff by myself, but I always want to know how to do it. Therefore, I know how to communicate with somebody. Okay, here's how I want it to sound. Like producing is not my gift, right? Everyone has their gifts. Production is not my gift, but I learned how to, I learned like the DAW that my main producer uses. I learned how to like do a clean like vocal demo, and also so I could communicate and be like, I want it to sound like this in a way that they know. And I think that's important because you should learn how to do everything and then spend more time working on what your gifts are, because then you're going to collaborate with somebody who has opposite gifts, who needs you. Like it's not a one-man thing, but it's like you should know how to like communicate with everybody. It's like if you're going to a foreign country, you don't need to speak the language, but you should learn some basic phrases for like common decency, like just to be polite. You're going into somebody else's territory, like learn how to communicate with them.
Yeah, I love that. And it reminds me of this speech that Caroline Polachek gave about learning how to do everything. Like, because in this world, like you can and you should, and it'll empower you more as an artist. I totally agree. I think a lot about ownership. I think is like the industrialization of anything, I think always comes with the diluting of like the quality of it. And yeah, I definitely feel that way. Like how I kind of feel about my work is like, I don't need it to be consumed by everyone because I know it will get to the right people and the people who need it. And if we talk about like creation and like creating work, I feel like that's such an interesting phrase to me with like the digitization of everything. Because it's like anyone can create art, like pencils exist, like instruments exist. But then it almost becomes this thing where you have to be like patient with yourself. You have to love it enough to like learn the origins of it so you can do something like authentic to you based on the techniques that have been developed. And like, I don't know, I guess music is this like really interesting industry where the digitization of it has happened kind of like slowly, right? So I'm curious what you like as someone who's been in the space for a long time, if you have any thoughts about that, like instrument, like creating things instrumentally, like people producing like more work that kind of originates with these like digital sounds, like synthesizers, like automation, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, when you were talking, I had this like thought come to me where it's like there's a lot of people that can make art, but there's not a lot of artists. And I think that's the thing. It's like lean into being an artist, not just somebody who makes art. Like I'm sure there was many painters that made one beautiful painting, but they just made art. They weren't an artist where they dedicated their life and like their life became it. Like we're seeing that's like anybody can release. That's why I think projects or like things are very important to do. Anybody who's creative, like commit yourself to like, okay, I'm going to release a whole book or I'm going to release a whole album. I'm going to like do a blog post once a week for like a whole year. Like commit yourself to doing a project because it's very easy for somebody. Consistency is like the thing that makes a difference. People can do one song, they can release one little thing. It takes a lot, and that's where you see people fall off is the consistency. Like they call it like 10-year town. It takes 10 years because it's like, yeah, because that's how everyone is friends with each other when they get to like the top because they've been doing it for 10 years and they all know each other. While people switch to something else, so maybe they fell out of love with it, maybe they found another passion. And it's interesting to see now. I believe like I always say, like my gift is communication and I just love storytelling in whatever form that may be. Like right now, God has it through music and songwriting. So for me, it's like the storytelling and the words and the story are going to be like the most important. And I could use any sort of delivery vehicle. Like if that was like the dip and I was trying to get the guacamole or the dip, I could use any type of tortilla chip. It doesn't really matter. Like the dip is the same. And the dip, if you really wanted to eat the guacamole on its own, you could eat it with a spoon. I always say like, for me, I'm like, a song isn't a good song if you can't play it on piano or guitar acoustically. If you're relying on the production, then like don't call yourself a songwriter. That's fine. But like if it's about the song and the storytelling, which for me it is, like the song should be, you can make it any genre. Just changing the production, you could make it country, you could change it up, which I think is cool because it's like, then you don't get pigeonholed, especially as like a woman. Oh, you write this type of music, you do this type of stuff. It's like, no, I want to have the freedom to be able to like, oh, maybe I want to try this or I want to do this, and it's like growing up with Taylor Swift and Lana, like I do feel so grateful. I'm like, I feel so lucky. We're seeing like a lot of artists. I mean, and with the social media and phones and everything, like we just have an interesting perspective of like a very interesting time seeing artists who have kind of like what artists have lasted through like, analog and then now to digital. And like the thing that has made them is like what is special about them is them. It's not their music. Like every Lana album, every Taylor album has a theme lyrically, sonically, because like their through line is them. Some people may not love this album compared to that album, but they're like, I still love her. I'm still gonna listen to her music. It's like they're making it for them. Yeah, they want people to like it, obviously, but they're making it for them. They're not like, oh my gosh, my fans told me to make this type of music, I'm gonna make this album next. No, they're making whatever they want and experimenting because we're gonna grow and change. If you like try to create based on what people liked one time, it's like you can't stay stuck and it's not gonna be authentic and people can tell. People are too good now, like they know.
I love that. Like the special thing about them is them, no matter what the tortilla chip is. That's really gorgeous. And yeah, it makes me think about like the artist as an identity. I think is a really interesting thing. Like, because I think when we've lived through the defunding and kind of the degradation of the humanities and arts, it becomes almost like a revolutionary choice to be an artist, right? Because people are like, that doesn't really make any sense. Like, good luck. And to commit yourself to it, it really is like, it's a really brave thing to do, I think. And like, I'm curious how you define, because you said this phrase earlier too, like, and maybe it's something that can't even be put into language, but if you have personal definitions for like good art versus bad art, or like what truly makes someone an artist.
I would say that I used to like struggle a lot with like people's expectations and like people pleasing, which I feel like a lot of people do. Especially, when you grow up in pageants, you're literally getting feedback on what people think. So just subconsciously, then it's like in your head. So you have to work through that. Like I came to the conclusion, it's like you can't. The second you start being like, the second your expectations get placed on something outside of your control, is like downhill from there. You can't do that. So like for me, it's all about like you have to. Whatever you can control, you need to set your standards. It's basically setting your standards for yourself and how you're going to make art. Like for me, it's like maybe for a project and it's like, I can't control how many streams it gets. I can't control this, but I can control like, okay, I want the cover art to look this way. I want to make 2 music videos. I have this budget or I have no budget. I'm going to figure it out. And I want to make it authentic to me. I'm not going to hide, or like, you have to just pick whatever it is that you like, whether that be like, I want it to be this many songs. I'm gonna like make the songwriting as honest as possible. I want to write the whole project by myself. I want to collaborate with people, like whatever you can control. Like it's like excellence. You should be doing everything with the spirit of excellence. I feel like we've all gotten lazy, and I have that too sometimes, because you feel like, well, nobody's gonna watch it anyway, so like why would I put all this effort into it? And it's like, that's me assuming that it's not going to do good, putting my expectations on something that I can't control. I don't know who's going to see it, so I should do everything as if like somebody important's going to see it, because it only takes one. People always say that it only takes one person's eyes, and you do not know how that person's going to see it. Somebody's daughter could be watching a video or reading something you wrote, and like their dad is this huge person of a company who sees it. It's not numbers, it's just one eye, and you do not know when that's going to be. So it's a matter of like doing everything with the spirit of excellence. Like this is within reason, but I've said this before, and I've had conversations, I've had arguments over this, but like, I think it remains true. Like how you do anything to an extent is how you do everything. Obviously it's not like exactly, but there's certain habits that are just ingrained. And like, for example, if you have laundry and like you dry your laundry, do you leave it in the dryer? Do you leave it in a basket? Do you leave it on a chair in your room? Do you put it away? Do you not put it away? Like little traits like that will kind of inform how you make other decisions in your life. Because we're habitual people. Like we start doing things on autopilot. So like if you don't fold and put away your laundry, are you somebody who like procrastinates until you have to? Or like do you never clean unless you have people coming over, so you only like care when people see, but you don't really care like when nobody's looking at you? Like it's very interesting to see that.
Yeah, wow. I like that a lot. And that's making me think about what we were talking about before, like decision paralysis. Because, yeah, I'm really grateful for my family and for the way that I was raised, and for kind of like my mentors here in New York, because they advised me to do everything with a spirit of love. And I feel like love and excellence are really similar. But then I'm thinking about how we do live in this age where it's like, realistically, you can only do so many things really excellently, and it becomes like important to be discerning about your time and your attention and the things you really want to pour yourself into. And yeah, because I think as someone who's raised to be really hardworking, like for me sometimes when I am doing too much, it's like I can't do all these things really well. So it's like creating time for like rest too, but still maintaining that balance between like being really devoted to something, but also having like moments of rest and restoration. Because one of my favorite passages in the Bible that I always turn to when I'm having like a hard time is, of course I can't remember the exact like verse or section, but I posted it in my blog because we're going to do a Bible study this summer that I'm really excited about. But it's like there are parts in the Bible where God is literally to people like, eat and sleep, like eat and sleep, just do the things that you need to do.
Yeah, well, it's like it's crazy. Like I'm reading Acts. I was reading Acts. I think it was talking, or no, maybe it was in Luke. Just something I read literally yesterday was talking about how God's like, you are the farmer, but you're also the field, and like you are my building. So it's basically like you're the farmer, but God's also working in you. Like you're the field. He's plucking out weeds as you're working for him. He's pruning you. He's making you better. And he's of course taking care of it because he owns the building. He owns the land. So he's going to want it to be successful. Like he's doing all of that. Like sometimes we feel like, oh, I'm in a season of like, I just have to like focus on myself and heal. It's like, no. God's doing everything simultaneously, but that you just have to like keep remembering that, you know? Okay, wait, continue on to what you were saying.
No, that's gorgeous. I love that. Keep remembering. That's a phrase I use a lot with like my spiritual practice too, is like when you get really confused or you get really caught up in a state, it's this moment of like, you have to keep remembering. And for me, it's like, I find when I'm consuming the right media, when I'm surrounded by the right people, when I'm like doing the restorative things that I need to be doing, like journaling, like reading my Bible, like praying, listening to like good music, like gospel or music that makes me feel good, like that helps me remember. Beyond journaling, are there any like practices you have that you feel like when you're just like really like bring you back?
Praying, reading my Bible, worshiping, listening to worship music, going on walks. I love walking. Like I'll walk if I'm ever feeling stuck. I think you have to do like an opposite. Like if it's a mind stuck, you have to like physically move, and if you're like physically feeling stuck, you need your mind to move, so you need to like be listening to music. Or that's why like on airplanes, like people, like I always listen to music because it calms me, because I'm physically stuck. I'm like, I can't walk, I can't do anything, so like listening to something exciting and having my brain active like calms me down. So I'm always like, if you feel stuck, like go for a walk. Like I write so many songs when I'm walking. I'll like have a little voice memo idea or something on my phone. I'll listen to it and I'll walk as I'm getting ideas, because it helps you. Like, I think there was an Ed Sheeran did an interview where he was saying that when he would songwrite, and I've done this before too, like when he would songwrite, he would like play with Legos or like fold the laundry, because it would like, it helps you get, you're not so concerned with like, oh, it has to be perfect, because it's like you need to, it's like the right side and the left side of your brain both need to be working for you to be in flow state.
Oh wow, I love that. That's really cool. That's really cool. Okay, yeah, and then what are you currently working on? Like, if people, let me rephrase the question. If people want to start doing like a Lily Kincaid deep dive, where should they start? And then what are you presently working on as well?
They should start with my discography. You can head to my website, lilykincaid.com, and you can find links to all my music and everything. I would definitely say catch yourself up with the discography, because I'm getting ready to release my debut album in the fall, and it's just going to be, it's going to be fun. I'm excited because it's like, you know, it's like the debut era, and then it's like, who knows where the second album is going to be, but familiarize yourself with that and be on the lookout for shows. I'm excited to start playing, because it is like, you know, it's, I love seeing when you do stuff too in person, because it's interesting when you like, I don't know, it's just, because it's like, you know, I'll have conversations with people about like, oh, how my music like reached them, or like, oh, they related, this song helped them get over this. And it's so meaningful, right? Like it's so impactful, but it is so different. Even when I'm like reading letters, or like when you get to like see somebody in person and be like, oh my gosh, like you're in front of me. So yeah, that's the lore.
I love that. Yeah, I've been lately calling like live stuff. It's like the purest form of performance, right? Because it's embodied. You're like there with them, and there's like a palpable energy, which is why like, gosh, yeah, I miss being on a stage, because I think about that a lot. Like, I was on a stage far younger than anyone I'd ever like read any of my writing or told me it was good, and it's like, I know, you know, just having grown up doing like stage-based stuff too, it's like there's just this energy in the room that's like, if you can achieve a flow state, which I feel like with ballet it was always really easy because it's so stimulating, like you're just like not there anymore.
Yeah.
Because you're so there, and it's
Yeah,
just
it's like you're not thinking. You're not
yeah,
thinking how are people perceiving it in that moment that you're on the stage, or like singing a song or reading something. You're so like in the art that it's like you don't think about all the other stuff. So it's like, how can we create that moment not when we're just doing that, you know?
yeah, I've been thinking about that too with like collaborative stuff, because being in like the corps de ballet or like doing someone else's choreography, like I feel like that's another thing the internet has done a little bit, is make everyone feel like they have to do their stuff in like a vacuum. Because I miss like working with other people, you know? It's like, for art, it's so like, oh, it's just like pure.
I think it's coming back. I think we'll see. Like honestly, I mean it won't, but like I would be like, oh, it'd be so great one day if like social media just like went away. Like if all the apps just like got deleted. They were just gone. Like
Yeah.
we're seeing it. I think we're just seeing how like which is good. It used to hold so much pressure. It used to hold so much power, and now it's kind of like it's not. Like collectively, people are like waking up and understanding that like we're idolizing this. We're idolizing like a piece of metal. Not even realizing, okay, who made the metal? Like how are it's so smart, has this technology. There's real people too. God made real people whose brains did this technology. Like have a conversation with a friend instead of ChatGPT. Like you'd be so surprised. Like you do not know. Like have conversations with strangers. Like you do not know what their story is, or like how they grew up. Like, you know.
Yeah, that's my like playing activity. I'm such a chatty girl. I'll always talk to the person for the entire flight if they want to, and I'll tell them like, you can tell me to shut up.
Because I'm like, you do not know. Like it's just interesting to see, because I feel like we're all like waking up, and it's like the more I read the Bible, the more everything that's going on, like it talks about that. It even talks about how like people don't understand. They're like, oh, religious people are so bad. I'm like, the Bible talks about that. You know, that's what the Pharisees were all doing. Like they were very strict. That's literally why Jesus came. Like people don't realize that. I'm like, you guys are just read it. Everything that's been like it's crazy, because like every time I like think I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do in this situation, God has given me the answers. I was reading what was I reading? I'm trying to read the whole Bible in a year, so I've been like reading little different books. But there was a point about David where he was trapped somewhere and like gonna get killed, and so he God told him to like act like a madman. So he started like just acting kind of crazy and like drooling on his beard and like making weird sounds. So the guard or whatever was like, this surely isn't King David. Like, let's let this crazy man go. Like, if we're ever in a situation where you feel in danger, you're supposed to act crazy. They always say like, someone's trying to kidnap you, you need to act like crazy, make loud noises, like scream, like weird things, because you know that's what people get deterred from. And the Bible, I was like, oh my God, like God told David to do that too. Like, nothing is original.
Yeah, it's also like really good writing. Yeah. Okay, amazing.
Yeah, you can stream Lily Kincaid everywhere, wherever you listen to your music.